Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. It is Thursday, that's right, and the Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Strap yourself in. Hey, happy Thursday. Yes, welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. This is live stream number 982. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then take a first look at a gaming release, or on occasion, I will share a live review. Well, tonight we are going to be diving on in and taking a look at both volumes 1 and 2 of Deep Magic for 5e Dungeons and Dragons from my friends over at Kobold Press. Combined, there are over, I believe, 1,000 new spells in these volumes together, plus other options as well for spell slinging characters. So we're going to be taking a look at these two volumes in just a bit. But of course, if you're not familiar with the show, just hanging out, having fun. So it is certainly not rocket surgery taking place. But if you are tuning in live because you do want to check out the first look at Deep Magic, I will let you know we tackled the tabletop gaming news first around here. So it's probably going to be about 35, maybe 40 minutes before we get on into the nitty gritty with Deep Magic. So if you are watching live, just kick back, relax, put your feet up. The weekend is nearly upon us. But of course, if you are watching 30 minutes or more after the show has ended, there will be timestamps. So if you're the impatient type, you know who I'm talking about. If you're the impatient type, you can actually just click on the timestamps and jump ahead. So you can jump past the tabletop gaming news if you'd like. Although, I got to be honest, as always, I've got some cool gaming news. But you will find, depending on the device you happen to be watching this on, those timestamps might be right there in the timeline of the video. If they are not, then take a look in the show notes. You will find them there. Easy peasy. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you won't find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, this is a live show, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen here. It's off to the side on YouTube in a little chat window. And one of the reasons why I do that is so I can keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And of course, you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours before you can take part in chat. Yet another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe get a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. If there's something about deep magic you want a closer look at, jump in a chat. I will aim to please. I can't guarantee that I will see it, because a lot of times things flash by in chat that I miss. But you can always toss it out there. Roll the dice. You know, come on. It's all about games. You're used to rolling dice. So let's see who's first out the gate tonight. It is Flaming Huron. One of our chat moderators from Australia is hanging with us, as is Kathy Evans and the Madman. Yes, the Motor City Madman, another of our chat moderators. Roger Perdome is here, as is Kevin King. So we've got chat off and running already. In fact, we might even have our very own Sarah D. That's right, our trio of chat moderators. Sarah D might be hanging with us as well. Very nice. Very nice. So Flaming Heron said, I saw a few names I recognized on the shoutouts for Odysseys and Overlord 2nd edition for Savage Worlds. I believe you were one of them, Madman. Well, very nice, very nice. I remember I shared a news piece about Odysseys and Overlords. I'm trying to remember if that was the Savage Worlds edition, though. I don't know. I do not know. You know what I think it was? And I actually had the creator reach out to me. Who knows? We might actually see that when it arrives. Yes, Sarah D is with us tonight. Very nice. Very nice. Let's jump on into the news. Arriving next spring from Matagot is Evenfall. Here's what I know. It's Evenfall. The clans of magic are preparing for a new era. Evenfall is the time when the boundaries of reality collapse and the supernatural awakens. The World Tree opens its glowing gateways to unknown distant regions. Send witches from your clan to discover and control new places of power. Use them for arcane rituals and battle for the favor of the Power Stones. I have the Power Stones. But there is only one seat on the enchanted throne. Do you have the skills to lead the world into a new era? Evenfall is a card-driven engine-building game with both novel and familiar mechanisms for 1 to 4 players. Manage your resources, execute your actions in an efficient order, and discover synergies that generate victory points. Evenfall is for, once again, 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 1 to 2 hours. It's going to carry an MSRP of $60 when it hits stores in the spring. I wish I had more details about the actual gameplay, because I like the artwork quite a bit. Looks quite interesting. Theme seems pretty cool. Flaming Heron says, Power Stones don't sound comfortable. Kind of like kidney stones? I was like, yikes, knock on wood. I've never had to deal with those. Thankfully. But yes, I thought this looked pretty cool. And it is supposed to hit sometime in Q2 of next year. On to our next news piece. Arriving this month from Osprey Games is A War Transformed. Here's the skinny. The Great War meets the horrors of forgotten folklore in this occult skirmish war game. 1916, a world transformed. As the Great War raged, the moon fell from its orbit. Seas shifted, uncovering new lands and revealing what tide and time had concealed. Long known as a potent occult power, the moon's descent also heralded the terrifying resurgence of magic. Long-forgotten gods and spirits began to stir in hidden groves and caverns, and old traditions found new strength. Soon, stone circles echoed once more with the chanting of ancient rituals, and menhirs were again bedecked with wildflowers and presented with offerings of honey and blood. 1918, a war transformed. Rival nations battle on new fronts, seeking dominance with weapons of spell, song, and sacrifice. Thrust to the surface, Doggerland, the ancient bridge between Britain and Europe, becomes a crucial battleground in the conflict. In this alien landscape, raiding parties pick through the ribs of wrecks and the ruins of lost villages. War machines, festooned with totems and fetishes, roll over the brittle bones of long-dead giants, and cavalry charge across plains made verdant by the vegetation returning to this new land with a natural speed. A War Transformed is a skirmish war game set in a world where World War I was utterly changed by forces beyond human comprehension. Players command small forces of infantry, cavalry, artillery, and other stranger troops on the Doggerland front. Fast-paced gameplay and a tense initiative bidding system are combined with authentic folk traditions and occult philosophies of the era. It is a game of rifle and relic, of bayonet and belief, of machine gun and magic. The rulebook for A War Transformed will arrive in stores on November 22nd. It's going to carry an MSRP of $35. Yes. And I would take a guess the miniatures are probably from, isn't it Northwind? Isn't that the company that normally does sculpts for many of the Osprey Games miniatures games? I believe so. I think they're called Northwind Adventures or something like that. I gotta say, it sounds very, very cool. Only thing I would be a little concerned with is something that we see with many of these skirmish level miniatures games that come from Osprey Games. We get a core book and then we don't see any support again. Now, we have seen exceptions to this. Of course, obviously enough, Frostgrave is the major skirmish war game. And of course, there is also Stargrave, which has had supplemental material as well. So did Gaslands. If I remember right, I think Gaslands got an additional supplement, although it's kind of a Car Wars miniatures game. It's not a skirmish miniatures game, or isn't considered to be part of that genre. But I gotta say, this sounds really, really intriguing. Yes, I should reach out to my contact from Osprey Games and see about maybe getting a copy of this. I just got an email asking me if I wanted a copy of their beat-em-up role-playing game, Urban Decay. And it's kind of like inspired by arcade fighting games and that, which I don't play. I have never actually been into those. And I don't know. I was kind of like, yeah, I think I'm going to take a pass, because I don't want to just get review copies of stuff just to share video and then be like, oh, now I got to review this. Oh, I shared a first look. Now I got to do the review. So I'm probably going to pass on this, but I think I will reach out and see if we can get a peek at this. To be honest, I would love to increase the amount of coverage I provide for miniatures. I really, really would. All right, let's move on to some role-playing game news, because currently up on Kickstarter for M Publishing is a mega dungeon for Dungeons & Dragons. I've got the scoop on Vault of Splintered...
In an age of fading...
Oh, I forgot to get rid of that video from last night. Oops. Yes, there is no Kickstarter video for the Vault of Splintered Souls. In the rolling hills of northwestern Ostenod, there are ruins wrapped in darkness and haunted by horrors in Elisar's distant past. Maltakar. Dreadful evils stalk the devastated landscape. Shadows cast by the crumbling stone are longer than they should be, and it seems as though dawn is always late and sunset comes early. What once was a magnificent city is now home only to lethal monsters and powerful undead, eager to prey on unwary travelers or foolish adventurers that dare tread this forsaken place. The origins of this dungeon are utterly lost. The bones of those that constructed it turned to dust by the rigors of time. Their ruins remain, however, instilled with a power that's grown over the epochs as more fools become trapped exploring it. There are thousands of imprisoned souls shattered, fragmented, and swirling beneath Maltakar in search of a peace they may never know. It is the lure of the unknown and the promise of grand treasures that still draw trespassers into the cursed entrance of this dreaded place. And though none ever leave it, there are still those with enough courage, greed, or desperation to delve below. This Kickstarter project is over 1,000% funded. I will point out it only had a goal of just over $1,000. And you can reserve a copy of the 100-page softcover book with PDF for a pledge of approximately $37. The reason why I say approximately is because I believe N-World and N Publishing are out of the UK. You can grab just the PDF alone for a pledge of approximately $13 through November 30th. Expected delivery for the PDF is December, so very, very quick turnaround, to be followed in January with the physical book. Now, my understanding is I think this mega dungeon was made available through the, is it N-World that's got the Patreon, or is it N Publishing? Oh, maybe it's the Insider. Maybe that's it, Insider magazine, which is, I believe, like an online subscription, but it's kind of like a Patreon. I think this was originally available through that. I think that's why the turnaround on this is going to be so fast. So, because you figure this is running to the end of the month, delivery on the PDF is December, and then January for the physical book. Pretty nice. Kevin R. Smith has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Kevin. So speaking of N-World, they released the SRD for Level Up under the Open Game License, Creative Commons, and the Orc. You get to take your pick. Sweet. I should one of these days reach out to N Publishing because I've shared quite a bit of news about their releases in the past. I will be honest, I don't know if I would be interested in Level Up. And I get it. I understand it's, and Kevin might be able to inform me more about this. I always thought that Level Up is kind of like an advanced 5e D&D. I thought that's how it's promoted as. It's not necessarily high-level adventuring. I thought it's more like an advanced, crunchier 5e. Now, I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. And there is actually quite a lot out there for Level Up. But maybe Kevin can answer that for me. But I don't know if I would be looking to try to review that. But something like Vault of Splintered Souls looks pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Flaming Heron said, I saw this, and I think I'll give it a look because it's pretty reasonably priced. And I do like mega dungeons, which is actually another question that this would lead me to ask. How well do you feel mega dungeons run? I have never actually run a mega dungeon. I have read enough of them, just never run them. I always get the feeling that the mega dungeon would run out of steam at some point in time. And yes, I do understand that mega dungeons are really kind of a throwback to original Dungeons and Dragons. Even like the Dave Arneson approach to the game, or Gary Gygax's approach to their own homebrew games. We're just continually going, further down and down and down into the depths of a dungeon. I don't know. But then again, if you think about it, just about any role-playing game campaign, doesn't matter if it's a mega dungeon or it's Masks of Nyarlathotep for Call of Cthulhu, could easily run out of steam if you don't keep your players entertained. Flaming Heron says maybe it's just his old school mentality and the gamers that they play with. Kevin says it is a crunchier set of rules. Every class has choices at every level. That I like. I do like that. Because I do think with 5e, you do have some relatively dead levels where it's sort of like, oh, okay, so I got 8 more hit points. Oh, sweet. Nice! Hooray! Hooray for me! I feel much bulkier and beefier, and my survivability is improved. Final news piece. Bundle of Holding is currently featuring a money-saving offer with Dungeon Crawl Classics Funnel Adventures, and I've got the deets on the deal. Adventurer! This Dungeon Crawl Classics Funnel Bundle presents 0-level starter tabletop fantasy role-playing game adventures for, you guessed it, Dungeon Crawl Classics, the Goodman Games fantasy role-playing game of gold and glory won by sorcery and sword. In a funnel adventure, your players send a dozen-plus hapless, normal, unheroic characters into a deadly environment where they rapidly die horrible and or hilarious deaths. The resourceful survivors get promoted to first level and become new player characters in a Dungeon Crawl Classics campaign. This all-new offer with 0-level modules from both Goodman Games and many third-party publishers show why funnel adventures are a much-loved hallmark of DCC. It's important to keep in mind these modules do require the Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics rulebook, which is not part of this offer, and Bane of the Ancients is actually for Mutant Crawl Classics. That's not included either. For just $9.95, you get all 6 DCC role-playing game scenarios in the starter collection, which has a retail value of $40, as DRM-free PDFs, including Goodman's recent DCC Module 101, Veiled Vaults of the Onyx Queen, along with Attack of the Frogs, Thick Skull Adventures, The Curse of Cragbridge, Mystic Bull Games, Fire in the Mountain, Purple Duck Games, The Peasant's Fell Bargain, Gaming Honors, and Sword in the Jungle Deep, The Keep Studios. And if you pay more than the current threshold price, current as of this afternoon, $21.80, you'll level up and also get the entire bonus collection with 5 more modules worth an additional $50, including another recent Goodman Games funnel, number 103, Bloom of the Blood Garden, as well as the Bane of the Ancients, as I already mentioned, which is for Mutant Crawl Classics, from Gaming Honors, Death Slaves of Eternity, Purple Duck, The Exodus of Wolfbane, also Gaming Honors, and Prison of the Mad Gods. Hectic Electron. It's kind of a cool name for a role-playing game company. These savings will run through November 20th, and 10% of your payment after gateway fees will be donated to the San Francisco Marin Food Bank. Very nice, very nice. I wish we saw more Goodman Games funnels in this, though. Out of the, 11? I think there's 11 PDFs altogether. 2 of them are Goodman Games. Now, I know nothing about these other funnel adventures or even the publishers they're from. So I'm not trying to knock that. But I would have liked to have seen, maybe one or two more DCC. Even if they did Sailors on the Seas of Fate, which is Harley Stroh's original, as far as I understand, funnel adventure for Dungeon Crawl Classics. Tessie Trekkie is with us. Says, the funnel adventure was my first exposure to Dungeon Crawl Classics at a con. It is for most people, I believe. All of my characters died when the first trap flooded the room with poisonous gas when a guy rolled a 1. Soured on them from then on. Kevin R. Smith says, I got this bundle, even though I'm not sure I'll ever have the opportunity to run Dungeon Crawl Classics. I like Dungeon Crawl Classics adventures. They tend to be pretty fun. I wouldn't say everyone I've encountered is a winner, but compared to other role-playing games, I would say more positive than negative for the adventures that are out there. Alrighty, so that is it for tonight's news. Now, you may have noticed I did not mention DriveThruRPG tonight, but don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to, say, visit DriveThruRPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, Wargame Vault, what have you, any of the One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. Doesn't matter if you're looking at going to DM's Guild and you click on a DriveThruRPG banner. All you got to do is, when you get to DriveThruRPG, look at the lower left corner and click on where you actually want to go. But if you click on our banner ad, even if you're not going to stop by DriveThruRPG, our affiliate code will still populate once you get to where your destination is. Yes. And of course, all of you out there who utilize those banner ads really do help keep thegaminggang.com around, because all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really, really do add up. They do. No joke. And of course, if you like this video, those of you who were watching last night, and I did ask early in the show, give a thumbs up to the video, because for some reason we've got a lot of regulars who just don't give the videos the thumbs up. It's engagement. Helps share the channel with other people out there. Anyway, I was going to say, turned out, wow, we're quite a few. It was like, whoa, that's quite a few likes that we got right after the stream was over. So much appreciated on that. Anyway, if you like the channel, if you think that, I don't know, gaminggang.com is a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. And the Madman recently stopped by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made a not small donation. Thank you very kindly, Madman. Actually, thanks to all of you out there who use the banner ads and or visit paypal.me/thegaminggang. All right, so we are going to be diving on into Deep Magic in just a few moments. I don't have a lot of housekeeping tonight. Did get a couple of comments on last night's show, which I deleted because I don't put up with anybody's BS. When how do I want to put this? I really appreciate people taking time out to watch the videos. I love when they comment. Not so keen on when they want to throw out a bunch of negativity. negativity, in case the T didn't come across that strongly there. Negatively. What was that? Elric of Melipone? No, it's Melnibone. Thank you. Anyway, I honestly don't care about individuals' opinions out there about what this should be. It's my stream. It's my show. I've been doing this for a few years. I've been doing the videos for longer than that. It's just, I am who I am, and this is how I do it. And there are a glut of people out there covering tabletop games. So if you don't like the format of this show, I don't really fucking care. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I know everybody out there in chat watching live and that, they just hang out. They're having a good time. They're not necessarily sitting there going, I wish Jeff would shut up and just get on to the Dungeons and Dragons coverage. No, not that, you speak like that. So Fleming here on uses a line that I've used many a time. Opinions are like assholes. We all have them, but not everyone wants to hear them. Yes. But yeah, I was like, seriously? It's like, I never understand why people will throw comments out about something like, I think it was, I want to say that this comment was on the community tab, which I had said, oh, hey, join us tonight for a first look at Planescape, blah, blah, blah. And somebody, I think this is where the comment was. I don't think it was on the video from last night. And they were like, basically, I won't give a dime to Wizards of the Coast. I'm paraphrasing. And blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they intentionally tried to screw people over and yada, yada, yada. And then someone commented something along the lines of, yet you're taking time out to leave your comment complaining about them. It's like, you really don't care about this company, but you're going to take time out to comment and carry on about something. And then they were kind of going back and forth at each other. I was like, jeez. So once again, I mean, if somebody out there is watching this and they're like, Deep Magic from Kobold Press. I hate Kobold Press. Their stuff's too expensive. They're always looking, because I've heard this. I've seen this in comments. Now, price-wise, I can't tell you what's expensive for you compared to expensive for me or expensive for someone who's got loads more money than I've got. So pricing is subjective, especially when we're talking about role-playing games. Because role-playing games provide you with so much content. So that's why, like, pricing on adventures, I almost never mention anything positive or, well, I will say positive things if I'm like, wow, that's a rockin' deal. But as far as adventure releases, I usually don't get negative about the pricing. Because if you think about it, even, as an example, we'll use Planescape. Although that is not only an adventure, it's a trio of books. And I think the adventure was clocking in, what did we see, 96 pages? So it's not huge. But let's say that the adventure itself is 192 pages, because I think that's our page count for everything that's included in Planescape. And it's $84.99, which I already discussed the pricing at Amazon, far, far less. So let's say you paid $85 for a 192-page adventure. I mean, that would be pricey in my opinion, but still. Let's say you got a group of 4 players and a game master, and You get together and you play 4-hour sessions, and it takes you 10 4-hour sessions to complete that adventure. That's a hell of a lot of entertainment for your $85. Now, if you took those same 5 people and had them go to the theater to go see a movie, which they may not even know if they're going to enjoy or not, combined, those 5 people are probably going to spend $85 or more at the theater for an hour and a half, 2 hours. Okay, if they go see Oppenheimer, 3, but still, that's it. Flaming Heron says, depends the value you get from it. If you never play it, then that isn't value for money, but that's on the individual. Yes. And yes, we know a lot of people out there are cult of the new. I get it. But anyway, going back to before I went off on the tangent, yeah, there are people out there like, oh, Kobold Press's stuff is too expensive. And, you know, they're always, what is one of the things I get all the time? I get, oh, you need to have all of their other books in order to run their adventures, which is not true. At least from what I have seen, usually when there are, like, say, Tales from the Wastes. Tales from the Wastes, which I will have a review of that very soon. It says, okay, so it's going to list the different monsters from their tomes of beasts. But then there's also the option of using other just bog standard monster manual creatures. So there is that option out there. So you're not forced to have to go and buy. And just like every other game company that references other releases in their catalog in a game release, Kobold Press is no different. But once again, I get people, you know, oh, I'm never going to buy from that company. I can't believe you're covering that company. Once again, I don't care. It's like I don't. You know, the funny thing is, I care about your positive reaction. I don't really. Negative reactions, I'm like, whatever. And like, once again, the people who regularly watch the Gaming Gang Dispatch and check out my videos and possibly listen to some of the spooktacular episodes, I'm not talking about you. You know what you're getting when you tune in for this show. I'm talking about, you know, the people who've got nothing better in their lives than to share their negativity with someone that they've stopped by once to their channel. Kevin R. Smith says, maybe the problem is that GMs need to make the players chip in for the adventure. I used to do that. I used to do that all the time. Splitting the cost 5 or 6 ways brings it down to less than the price of a movie ticket per person. 245 Trioxin is with us in chat. I'm not a big fan of them releasing additional content for Planescape the day of release for an additional fee. I would agree with you on that. But once again, it is just additional content. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to buy Planescape. I mean, it's the truth. Flaming Heron says, I got my value for money from the Gaming Gang. All of nothing? That's right. Most of you, I provide a hell of a return on your investment. It's just an investment of time. That's all. All righty. So we are going to be diving on into Deep Magic in just a couple of moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
This little boy and this little girl, their mother and father too. They all have an urge, and oh, what an urge for something to munch and chew. Now these are just swell, and this rings the bell. The popcorn is crispy and hot. Then others again have a terrible yen for a drink, then hits the spot. Go. So if you want candy, the lobby is handy. A counter with sweets and a crew. With your kind from intermission, we'll have intermission, we're ready to serve all of you.
What is it?
Say,
What is it?
hey, why it's Buttercup. Popcorn and sweet cream butter, too hot popcorn. Mix it up, wrap it up, Buttercup is born.
It's delicious.
So nutritious.
It's a taste delight.
It's so munchy,
Crisp and crunchy.
you'll enjoy each bite. Eat butter-drenched Buttercup, popcorn at its best.
Served in a king-size cup.
It beats all the rest.
Want some Wilkins coffee before you jump? No! You miss a lot when you don't drink Wilkins.
You'll love my nuts at the snack bar. I always get a kick out of the kind of trippy late 60s, early 70s kind of theater intermission. They call them snipes. I always find them really bizarre, especially the Dr. Pepper and the RC Cola. Yes, of course, I'll share more of those in the future. Flaming Heron says, who doesn't like nuts? So there is discussion of what people do as far as kind of defraying the cost of games. What we used to always do, since I'm the forever game master, is I would not pay for like the pizza or whatever. So if we were having, you know, something to eat during the game, like snacks, stuff like that, I would bring my own drinks, but like food and that, no. And that was it. I mean, because nowadays I don't have any of the players kick in for anything. So, because so much of it I get as review copies. Not everything, keep in mind, not everything is, you know, provided by the publishers, but still. Roger Perdome says, my players must be weird. Usually they bring coffee and most of the time bottles of Fireball cinnamon whiskey. Because, yeah, you can't play role-playing games without Fireball. All right, so tonight we are going to dive on in and take a first look at volumes 1 and 2 of Deep Magic 4 5e Dungeons & Dragons from Kobold Press. We are going to be looking at the standard slipcase set, which carries an MSRP of $129.99. Now, you can get both of the PDFs of volumes 1 and 2 for a combined $54.99, or you can buy the physical books separately for MSRPs of $59.99 each, or $29.99 in PDF over at DriveThruRPG. So let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got the slipcase set. I'm going to get the shrink wrap off of this. A few things I will mention before we get stuck in. First of all, my friends over at Kobold Press were kind enough to provide me with this review copy. In fact, I reached out to Kim with a Y, to request a copy of this, and she emailed me back and she said, "Oh yeah, we've actually already got it on its way to you." I was like, "Oh, sweet, nice." So we have volume 1. I should say this is the artwork from volume 2, the cover art. On the front, on the back, you've got the cover art from volume 1. So what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at each, and I will actually be flipping through, and we'll take a closer look at a few spells in each of the volumes, take a look at some of the additional options, because it isn't just only like just a list of new spells. There are some other options as well for players and dungeon masters, I believe. Command 600 new spells for 5th edition. Deep Magic Volume 1 collects, updates, tweaks, and expands on years of magic from Kobold Press with more than 600 new and revised spells and other options. So we've got, well, won't even read this. We'll take a look inside and we'll see. And we've got our credits here. Loads of designers. Quite a few different artists. I think the lead on this is Celeste Konowich. This is the limited edition cover. There is a slipcase with the limited edition releases. Okay, so we've got new character options. The Theurge, taking a guess on that pronunciation. Subclasses, Bard Colleges, Divine Domains, Druid Circles. Wouldn't they be Druidic circles? Ranger Archetypes. So it's not just the main spellcasters that are getting some new options. I think the Paladins actually got some new options in here as well. We have new styles of magic. Spellcasting allies. So the first 124 pages are devoted to player character options, and it looks like some new forms of magic too. So we've got a new base class, the Theurge. Once again, like I said, not sure if that's a pronunciation. So that looks like we've got some flavored text there. So they blend the arcane and the divine. They revel in the unbridled wonders of magic, regardless of its source. They strive to refine their magical abilities, driven by their quest to accomplish ever greater feats of spellcasting. Many consider the Theurge to be the epitome of what it means to be a spellcaster. So it looks as if they utilize both arcane and divine magic. I should point out, we're not going to look at each and every page of this book, but I am kind of curious to get a better feel, better look at this new class. And then we have new abilities. For level, we got devotions, the mystic, the spell siphon. Your insatiable thirst for new and expanded spell options has led you to discover how to siphon spell energy and knowledge directly from other spellcasters. And then we have some new subclasses, which I believe are open to all magic users. So it looks like the new class had maybe 4 or 5 pages devoted to it. So Kevin R. Smith says, yeah, this one's got an update on the 3rd edition Mystic Theurge. Cool. As I pointed out before, I know very little about 2nd edition and 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons, because I was long gone. I talked about this a little bit last night. Early in the, maybe not so early, probably about 82, 83, in the advanced D&D run, we had moved on. I was running Call of Cthulhu. I'll be the first to admit, I didn't run a lot of D&D when I was a kid. I played a little bit. We played more war games and board games. But I did run a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons. So here we've got different domains. Hunger domain. You have dedicated your life to the satisfaction of your appetites, sometimes without regard for others' needs. You realize you can never be truly sated, but you also know that remaining hungry is the key to amassing power. Justice domain. All seek some form of justice when they have been wronged, and many live under the promise of its protection, whether or not the promise is ultimately kept. But few take on the holy burden of delivering the justice of the gods. The mercy of the divine, when in evidence at all, is not the mercy of mortals, and meting out divine justice makes for a lonely life. Yet someone must make the sacrifice. Looks like we might have some new spells available for characters based on their domain. So we've got, these should be the druidic circles. Circle of Owls. Druids of the Circle of Owls maintain their tradition of spying and gathering knowledge, and occasionally of permanently silencing those who would misuse knowledge. Circle of Owls druids draw on the power of their namesakes, moving about the world unnoticed as they see and hear what others try desperately to hide. We got a Genie Lord. Okay, so these are new archetypes for martial characters. Sacred Oath, we have a Vampire Slayer. Vampire Slayers wander remote forest, haunted hills, and fog-bound moors, protecting the common folk at the edge of civilized lands from the creatures of the night. Moving unseen through woodlands, your specialized training allows you to hunt vampires, ghouls, werewolves, and other monsters that prey on the innocent. So something I will mention as far as like fantasy role-playing game Magic, I actually really like much of what Dungeon Crawl Classics does with their Magic. I like the fact that Magic is wild, it's unpredictable, it's corrupting. That's a true sword and sorcery meme there, or trope, I guess I would say. And I like the fact that if you cast the spell, you don't necessarily forget the spell. You don't have the spell slots like you do in D&D and quite a few other retro clones and fantasy heartbreakers out there. The one aspect that I think makes the Magic and Dungeon Crawl Classics a bit clunky, though, is all the tables. And I know some people love that. So one of the things they love the most about it is just the randomness of the Magic, which I really like too. It's just sometimes you have 2-3 pages of tables just for that single spell. So I think it's a little much sometimes. But I do like the fact that even the lowliest spellcaster can very possibly cast some very powerful magic. So we've got Mythos Magic. The works of author H.P. Lovecraft, the Cthulhu mythos, have been a cornerstone of role-playing game storytelling since E. Gary Gygax immortalized its influence in his inspirational and educational reading list. Taking its name from Lovecraft's famous story, The Call of Cthulhu, the mythos has become the backdrop for a subgenre of fiction sometimes called cosmic horror. So it's going to give us a recommended spell list for the mythos, grimoires of the Cthulhu mythos, nameless cults, the Necronomicon, ring magic. So here we've got different types of magic, different options as far as your magic system, like rune magic, ring magic. Cthulhu mythos magic. So here we've got some examples of runes. Looks like quite a few pages devoted to that. Spellcasting allies. The brooding archmage alone in their tower is a staple of fantasy literature. The more powerful a wizard becomes, the more distant they seem from the common folk, and the greatest are often most misunderstood or feared. Some wizards try to alleviate this loneliness by passing on their knowledge to those around them, taking on one or more apprentices. Others create magical constructs to guard their homes, or simply to keep them company, and summon familiars for much the same reason. This chapter describes various companions and accoutrements that a powerful spellcaster, particularly a wizard, might have. So we actually get named NPCs. It's kind of cool. So it's not just an NPC block like Butler. It's like quite a few of those. Now we'll get into spell lists for each of the classes. So we see here's our bards, our clerics, druids, paladins and rangers, sorcerers, and warlocks, and we should have our wizards. There we go. Wow, look, look at these wizard spells. I usually talk about different kinds of books that tend to sell well for role-playing games, and never fails for like 5e. It's always spell grimoires, player character option books, always do very, very well. Not just for Wizards of the Coast, because obviously they don't really publish any standalone grimoires, but the third-party companies do very well with those also. I honestly think we're probably looking at the best-selling 5e books are character class options. Now, I could be wrong. All right, so let's take a look at some of these spells. Aspect of the ape. You alter the appearance of a creature you touch, giving it a more simian form. While this spell is in effect, the subject gains a climbing speed equal to its normal walking speed and gains advantage on strength, athletics checks made when jumping or climbing. When up in a tree's branches or in a similar area at the GM's discretion, the target can move up to its climbing speed as a bonus action. Bitter chains. The spiked ring in your hand expands into a long, barbed chain to ensnare a creature you touch. Make a melee spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target is bound in metal chains for the duration. While bound, the target can move only at half speed and has disadvantage on attack rolls, saving throws, and dexterity checks. If it moves more than 5 feet during a turn, it takes 3d6 piercing damage from the barbs. And its duration is a minute. I'd say that's a pretty long spell there. Like the artwork. I don't know. I have not encountered anything that I recognize from previous Kobold Press releases. I would not be shocked if there is some repeat of artwork. But then again, maybe not. If memory serves, this did have a Kickstarter. Curse of Yig. Oh, speaking of that mythos magic. This spell transforms a small, medium, or large creature that you can see within range into a servant of Yig. See the creature codex. An unwilling creature can attempt a wisdom saving throw, negating the effect with a success. A willing creature is automatically affected and remains so for as long as you maintain concentration on the spell. Curse of the Grave. You tap your connection to death to curse a humanoid, making the grim pull of the grave stronger on that creature's soul. Says the target fails death saving throws on any roll but a 20. If the target dies, it rises one round later as a vampire spawn under your control and is no longer cursed. That's pretty wild. There is more to some of these spells. I'm just not reading everything. Fire darts. When this spell is cast on any fire that's at least as large as a small campfire or cooking fire, 3 darts of flame shoot out from the fire toward creatures within 30 feet of the fire. Darts can be directed against the same or separate targets as the caster chooses. Each dart deals 4d6 fire damage. Wow. That's only a 2nd level spell. Nice. Darts can't, well, I guess you take half damage if you make a successful dex save. That's pretty wild. Hamstring. You send an arrow of eldritch energy at a target you can see within range. Make a ranged spell attack against target. On a hit, target takes 1d4 force damage, and it can't take reactions until the end of its next turn. Spell damage increases by 1d4 when you reach 5th level, 11th level, and 17th level. Ire of the Mountain. An Ire of the Mountain spell melts non-magical objects that are made primarily of metal. Choose one metal object weighing 10 pounds or less that you can see within range. Tendrils of blistering air writhe toward the target. A creature holding or wearing the item must make a dexterity saving throw. On a successful save, the creature takes 1d fire damage and the spell has no further effect. On a failed save, the targeted object melts and is destroyed, and the creature takes 4d8 fire damage if it is wearing the object, or 2d8 fire damage if it's holding the object. If the object is not being held or worn by a creature, it is automatically melted and rendered useless. Spell cannot affect magic items. Kevin King, who I think I said hello to earlier, if not, I apologize. Hello, Kevin. Says, Kobold seems to make books that depend on each other as a sales tactic. Not as bad about that as Palladium, the company that shall not be named, but it still seems to be there. Yes, I have pointed that out. I pointed that out earlier, that is a complaint that I get. But let's be honest here. Many role-playing game companies do the same thing. It might just seem more obvious as far as Kobold Press goes. And the reality is, okay, so we had that one spell. It was the Yig spell. It's like, oh, they turn into a servant of Yig. See the creature codex. Okay, so you don't have the creature codex. Don't worry about having that spell. Or turn the spell into something else. That you turn, somebody into another creature. So, hey, speaking of palladium, somebody had commented on a video saying that I think it was the like 29 fantasy role-playing games worthy of your attention that aren't D&D. And they were like, oh, well, you know, it's more complex with palladium than you made out. And they were like essentially palladium apologists. And I was like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with this. Like, if you want to sit there and, you know, kiss Kevin's ass, go kiss Kevin's ass. But there's more to my negative impression of palladium than only the Rune Quest, the Robotech Kickstarter that was a complete mess. There is far more going on behind the scenes, and it's like anybody, you know, if you're a big fan of a publisher, you're going to ignore some of this stuff that might be a little bit skeevy. so we got our Tales of the Valiant spell conversion. That's cool. Nice. Hopefully the image is nice and clear tonight. I did notice on last night's stream, when I took a peek at the recording of it, well, I guess I shouldn't say recording of it, the render of it on YouTube, it was a little pixelated, which, yeah, that's, I have no control over that, because I took a peek at the actual recording of the stream and it was nice and sharp. But it is a YouTube compression thing. So Warren Rollins is with us. Welcome aboard. So Kevin King says the Rifts rabbit hole is a 200 book commitment. I actually had Palladium stuff way back in the day. I remember I got the Mechanoids. I picked up the Mechanoids and they were almost like comic book size. And I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was very cool. It was kind of like the Terminator before the Terminator came out. And I remember I picked up the original Rifts that came out as well. And I had absolutely nothing against Palladium. And I know many people have had beefs with Kevin, isn't it Symbia or something like that? I forget how it's pronounced. There have been people who have had beefs with him for decades. So, but I never, got into it. But then the nonsense with the Robotech and the one guy who was under so much pressure over it tried to commit suicide, or allegedly tried to commit suicide. And then Kevin used that to try to get people to back the other Kickstarter. It was fucking ridiculous. And it was at that point in time, I was like, I'm sorry, I will not promote anything from Palladium. All right, so we get a new class. No, new character options. So this book has fewer spells than the first volume. First volume had 600. This one has 4. So we get the Witch. Witches seek knowledge, power, and connection in their communion with nature. They cultivate their bond to these elemental and primal forces, becoming guardians at the gate, attendants of deep knowledge, and liaisons to a realm of immeasurable possibilities. So Kevin says, I believe it's Shem Beta. Yeah, you might be right. Like I said, I've never met him. I don't have any relationship with the company. Got to keep in mind, when I talk about stuff where it's like, well, I'm sorry, I just won't provide coverage for a company. It's not like I have any personal animosity towards anybody. It's just some of their business practices or some of the things that I've heard from a multitude of people has turned me off from promoting any of those particular companies. That's it. It's like I don't sit there going, oh, I can't wait for them to go out of business. Why aren't they out of business? Nothing like that. It's just, you know what? I got way too many great publishers out there that I don't get an opportunity to share enough coverage of. I don't need to spend time on companies that I don't think much of. So Warren asks, so do we have a spreadsheet with all the reasonable spells in these two books yet? I mean, useful, but still not overpowered? Don't know. I have no idea. Kevin points out that Riff's, Palladium is a company that practically invented power creep. Yes, I actually remember when all that was going on. I was like, okay, so wait, so now we've got a different classification of like damage points. Now it's like mega damage. Okay. All right, so we've got some new circles. We've got some new Paladin Sacred Oaths. Sorceress Origins. Wizard Arcane Traditions. That's kind of wild. The wizard is transforming itself. The Storyteller. So these might be new backgrounds or new archetypes. New types of magic, doom magic. Entropy is sometimes seen as synonymous with death and the end of days. In truth, it's a facet of nature as inescapable as the four elements and the laws of alchemy. Doomsday cults relish the approaching apocalypse, espousing love while threatening damnation for unbelievers, and the powerful threat to tear down all of civilization just to add a new province to their realms. Dream magic. Practitioners of dream magic have learned to quiet the noise of their senses and to trust their intuition to perceive the truths that lie beneath the surface. They have learned to embrace the bizarre and beautiful ways the mind makes sense of the world and aren't afraid to dive into the most secret corridors of the self. Though dream magic may lack the sound and fury of other styles of magic, mages who pursue it understand that there is far more power to be gleaned from imagination and emotion than most creatures realize. Fey magic. It's kind of cool that we do have, okay, so if you want to like focus on pestilent magic, well, here's our recommended spell list. So that's kind of cool. It appears as if we might have more player-facing, well, it's all player-facing because they're spells. But it looks like we might have a higher page count devoted to character options and spell circles and types of magic than we did in the first volume. Because it seems as if the page count is pretty similar. So we've got some enchantments. So magic in your campaign. Downtime activities, enchanting arms and armor, potion brewing, researching magic, customizing spells, epic and legendary magic, magic as a plot device, spells as plot devices. Easiest spell plot device is dangle a powerful, cool spell in front of your magic using characters and tell them, well, if you want it, you got to go track it down. Warren says, so theme magicians are a thing for this. I do like that. The SRD leans so hard on, there we go. We got the, I was going to say, the little heart button blocking off the last thing, fire magic. There we go. So Kevin King points out that they backed Tales of the Valiant. So he'll soon find out what their book quality is like. I would say, as far as the paper stock, similar to Wizards of the Coast for the most part. Although last night when we were taking a look at Planescape, I did point out that the paper stock in those books was far, far thicker than we're used to seeing. All right, so now we get into our spells. So we had about 10 additional pages compared to volume 1 devoted towards types of magic, character options, things like that. I did review the beta release for Tales of the Valiant, and I got to be honest, not sure why it exists. And I like Wolfgang Bauer. I like everybody from Kobold Press. I've actually never met Celeste Konowich, but she does good work. It was just kind of, okay, so you're raising the black flag. You're going to do your own role-playing game to kind of get away from the open game license. And of course, we knew that you weren't going to see huge differences between Tales of the Valiant and 5e D&D, because 5e D&D is what the vast majority of the current material that's available from Kobold Press is written for. So you knew they weren't just going to throw all that away. It's like Empire of the Ghouls. Yeah, Jeff gave that a 10 out of 10, but let's not sell that anymore because we're going to focus on Tales of the Valiant. So I know it's just a play test, and it was, did I say it was the beta? I think it's the alpha. But I just didn't see tons that was different. And some of the things that were different, supposedly, are going to be in the next version of D&D, which is coming out in 2024. So I was like, oh, okay. So we got the elf shot. You pretend to shoot an arrow with a tiny bow. Make a ranged spell attack against a creature within range. On a hit, the target creature stumbles, is pushed 5 feet in a random direction. Roll a d8 and assign a direction each die face, and its speed is 0 until the end of its next turn. Till the spell ends, you can make the attack again on each of your turns as an action. First level enchantment. So Warren says, I have to admit, I bought Tales of the Valiant as a way to stick it to the man. But I hate that I don't expect to run it. That's too bad. I got to be honest, from what I've seen, if you run 5e and you've backed Tales of the Valiant, you can easily run Tales of the Valiant instead of 5e and just convert to Tales of the Valiant. Impaling Glory. You call down glowing spears to skewer and pin your enemies. The golden spears fall on up to 3 creatures on the ground you can see within range. Make a ranged spell attack against each target. On a hit, a creature takes 1d8 piercing damage and 1d8 radiant damage and is restrained as a glowing spear pierces it and pins it to the ground. A creature restrained by a spear can use its action to make a strength check against your spell save DC. On a success, it is no longer restrained. Kevin King says they run 5e for the kids. Plan to try to switch them to Tales of the Valiant when it comes out, but I am skeptical they will go for it. In my opinion, Kevin, don't tell him. Don't tell him what you're running. Because like I said, it is similar enough. I have to laugh, though, that there is this kind of conception that you've got Dungeons and Dragons, and then you have fantasy role-playing games. Like Dungeons and Dragons is this radically different thing than everything else that's out there. And I do get it. I do understand where people have never played role-playing games and they are interested. Maybe they watched Critical Role or they've heard from friends and they're kind of like, oh yeah, you know, I would like to check out Dungeons and Dragons. I think it would be fun. And I've gotten absolutely nothing against that. But it's kind of funny how it's sort of D&D or bust with some of those people, with a lot of those people actually. Rat plague. Your touch inflicts disease. Make a melee spell attack against a creature within reach. On a hit, you inflict the creature with one or two possible rat plagues described below. At the end of each of the target's turns, it must make a Constitution saving throw. After failing 3 of these saving throws, the disease's effects last for the duration, and the creature stops making these saves. So we have rat fever. Yeah, I got the rat fever, baby. And then we have the rat shakes. So you shake like a rat? Shadow Gateway. By drawing a circle of black chalk up to 15 feet in diameter and chanting for 1 minute during the casting time, you open a portal directly into the plane of shadow. The portal fills the chalk circle and appears as a vortex of inky blackness. Nothing can be seen through it. Any object or creature that passes through the portal instantly arrives safely at that destination. The portal remains open for 1 minute or until you stop concentrating on the spell. It can be used to travel between the plane of shadow and the chalk circle in both directions as many times as desired during the spell's duration. Slime Guard. So this is a cantrip. You coat yourself in a thick magical slime. Get a little kinky there. You have advantage on the next ability check you make to escape a grapple before the start of your next turn. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Templar's Mercy. Your quick prayer prevents catastrophe. The target regains 1 hit point. The triggering effect is a death saving throw. The target regains the hit point immediately, even if the saving throw is the target's 3rd failed death saving throw. Woodland Walk. You touch a willing creature. Difficult terrain composed of non-magical plants don't cost the target extra movement. In addition, the target can pass through non-magical plants without being slowed by them and without taking damage from them if they have thorns, spines, or similar hazards. Spellcasting NPCs. The Ancient Dragon Mage. The Archdruid. The Pyromancer Elementalist. The Frost Mage. So we're getting a little bit of a bestiary here. We've got the Witch. The Theurge. You saw in the first volume. And we got magical random tables, magical encounters, magical descriptions, reverse summoning quests. Looks like we're going to get some location maps, adventure sites, Alchemist's Workshop. Okay, so I have seen that before. Arcane Construct Workshop. Also, there's quite a few of these. The Void, Elemental Nodes, Water, Necromancer's Laboratory. They're all just square. The Witch is dead. Kind of interesting. They're all square, same dimensions. Little cookie cutter there. Wizard's Dueling Room. All right. And then, speaking of Tales of the Valiant. So that is arriving in 2024. I believe that is planned as their big Gen Con release, which this past year, Kobold Press actually lucked out and their Gen Con release was available at Gen Con. So that was pretty cool. Right, so that's volume 1 and 2 of Deep Magic. So I will have a review in the near future. I will review this as the slipcase set. So I won't do a review of volume 1 and then a separate review of volume 2. I'll do them both together. All right. So once again, big thank you to my friends over at Kobold Press for providing me with this review copy. But remember, neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. Always important for you to know that. So the Madman's asking, speaking of Gen Con, how far in advance do the hotel rooms open up? Depends on where you're going to stay. So I will tell you from my past experience, it is very, very difficult to book downtown. And it tends to be pretty damn expensive downtown. So I lucked out the 1 year, COVID year, I actually stayed at the Crown Plaza, which is directly across the street from the convention hall. And I loved that fact. That was awesome. But I think it was, if I remember right, I think it was almost $2,000. And I usually go, I get there Wednesday night and then I leave Sunday. And I had to fly solo. So that all came out of my pocket, which I was not planning. So, but what'll happen is if you get your pass, if you order your pass, then they will have a housing portal like just about every other convention. I'm sure I shouldn't say I'm sure. I would take a guess Dragon Con probably does the same thing where you have the portal and then it opens at a specific time. And what Gen Con does is it assigns you a time. And it usually, the portal opens at like noon. And if your time isn't 2 o'clock or earlier, you can pretty much forget getting anything close to downtown. But that's normally how that works. So, but I mean, you could, if you're not planning on staying right down there, you could book a room now. So what I did last year is I thought Elliot was going to go with, because he had sort of implied he was going to go. And then I actually booked through the hotel portal, but it wasn't close by. It was still 12 miles away or whatever, what have you. And then he was like, well, I don't think I can go. Well, it was basically, it came down to, he was either going to go to San Diego Comic-Con or Gen Con. And to him, going to San Diego is far more of a vacation than going to Gen Con. And I get that. I mean, it's Indianapolis, right? Whereas to me, Gen Con is a far, far more important convention for the outlet than Comic-Con is. The only reason I go to Comic-Con is because of my brother and Elliot. Otherwise, I'd be like, I'll go to, like Gary Con and smaller cons. I'd rather spend that money doing that, but yeah, trying to be a good friend, trying to be a good brother. But yeah, as far as Gen Con, if you're planning on trying to stay downtown, most of those are already blocked off. You have to wait for the hotel portal, which if I remember right, it's passes for Gen Con should start going on sale like in January. And then I think the hotel portal is February, March-ish. So I know. Sorry, Madman, I'm not giving you the kind of answers you probably were looking for, but Flaming Aaron says they'd go to Gen Con over Comic Con as well. Yeah, Gen Con's my favorite convention. I have a blast. Just like we were playing Call of Cthulhu on Monday. And Elliot was kind of, hey, so are we gonna do the Gary Con again? And I was like, dude, that was pretty expensive because we did not get a press pass. And it was over $100 a pass, which, the reality is we're talking, that's like Gen Con pass money. It's like, and then the hotel, it was a motel, was about $100 a night, which wasn't horrible, but I just looked and and once again, like I said, it is a motel and it's Lake Geneva, which used to be a resort town. I don't think it's so much of a resort town anymore because I don't think a lot of people go to like Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, not talking about Europe. I would go to Lake Geneva in Europe, yeah. But I took a look because I said, well, I'll consider, I'll take a look because I thought it was, as far as being a motel, it was fine. It was not like we were going to spend a bunch of time there, although we did spend an afternoon when it snowed playing board games and stuff in the motel room. But I looked and they wanted like $560 for the 4 nights. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because then you got to throw tax on top. I was like, I don't know. Now, there's supposed to be some small convention out here in the Chicago suburbs. I think it's in February. And off the top of my head, I don't recall the name of it. Might be LyleCon or something like that. But somebody had emailed me saying, hey, Jeff, my friend runs this convention. You might want to check it out. Reach out to him. And then I forgot. So the Madman says they're likely going to be flying solo for Gen Con. You're always welcome to hang with us. And, Kevin R. Smith says, sounds like Lake Geneva is almost as good as India jacking up hotel prices. Wacky. Well, the funny thing is, now last year for Gen Con, I stayed, let's see, I'm trying to remember. It was a chain, but it was about 15-minute drive. And it was actually not far from a really crappy area of Indianapolis, but it wasn't in that really crappy area. And I think for the 4 nights with tax, it ran me about $450, something around there, which I thought was actually pretty good. And then it turned out my brother came and helped me out for a couple of days. And he was like, yeah, this place is pretty nice. So I've actually considered maybe booking there because I never know for Gen Con if I'm going to be flying solo. Because I can never, I'm always trying to get my nephew Cameron to go because he went once for a day. And he went there for like the morning and afternoon, and my brother and he left. So, and I tell him all nowadays, he's 22 years old too, so he can enjoy an adult beverage with his uncle down there. But every time I try, and I get the pass in his name, because I get 2 press passes. I get the pass in his name, and it's like something always comes up. So, don't know. Anyway, But when we get closer to Gen Con, Madman, reach out. You know how to get a hold of me. I know who you are. Because I'll make sure you're entertained at least at Gen Con. Because I love Gen Con. I don't mind flying solo because I know so many people in the industry. So I can hang around, shoot the shit, or go have a couple of beers with them after the exhibit hall closes and stuff like that. But like as a gamer hanging out by yourself, I don't know. I mean, when you'd be playing stuff, sure. No problem. But, you know, once the exhibit hall closes, unless you've got games like all night, all, morning long, because Gen Con is 24 hours, except for the one COVID year, they closed the exhibit hall at midnight. I don't know how exciting Indianapolis would be all by yourself. So Kevin R. Smith says, because of the long gap between his Gen Con attendance, they remember when the biggest problem was the Skywalk hotels selling out early, not all the downtown ones. Well, it's funny because we used to go to Gen Con when it was in Milwaukee. And we were just poor kids. So we never actually we stayed in, God, you know what, to be honest, I don't even know if we had booked rooms in advance. I think we just drove up there and, looked around for motels and stuff. So anyway, all righty. That is it for this time out. Next week, remember, it is Savage Worlds Week. Yes, I know there are quite a few people out there who have already shared their excitement. So on Tuesday's show, we're going to be taking a look at the core rulebook for Savage Worlds, the Adventure Edition from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. So not a jam-packed show on Tuesday, but we will be making up for that on Wednesday and Thursday, because on Wednesday we'll be diving on into Deadlands, the Weird West for Savage Worlds, as well as the Weird West Companion and the Weird West Pawns. So that'll be on Wednesday. And then, if you've been watching the show, I have to move off to the side to get this box because it's too heavy for me to just lift from off on the side. Week from tonight, we're going to dive on into Pathfinder for Savage Worlds. I am really, really curious about this. So we're going to take a look at the Ultimate Core. And then we'll also take a peek at the Companion. So next Wednesday, next Thursday, jam-packed shows. I will probably not even bother doing any sort of random musings on those episodes because we will have that much to look at. So, of course, hopefully you will be joining me then. Anyway, as I mentioned, that's it for this time out. If you liked the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming review, hint, hint, tomorrow, of Vaesen, the Lost Mountain Saga from Free League Publishing. And I will be cranking out some other content over the weekend as well. don't expect to see the Planescape review. That is probably not going to hit until at the earliest next week. So just, you know, and if you missed out, don't forget, get into the running to win my copy of the alternate art edition of Planescape for 5e D&D. Check out yesterday's show. I explain how you can do it. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, big tip of the cap to you. Not only are you keeping me company, but you're keeping each other company as I'm paging through a role-playing game book or unboxing a board game. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. I will be back on Tuesday. That's right, for Savage Worlds Week. And I certainly hope all of you out there get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.